Hello and welcome to Labour Lens. I am Sharon Ijason. Recently, the distribution companies increased electricity tariff, which in turn means persons residing in Nigeria will have to pay more for power consumed. We also have other stories for you. We will be right back.
In the wake of the coronavirus outbreak, senior citizens in the country appealed to government at all levels to prioritize the welfare of pensioners. They say they are highly susceptible to contacting the virus as a result of age and other underlying health factors. As it looks back after months of the pandemic, the union says government has not met members' expectations.
After COVID-19 period, our loud, unanimous call on the federal and all state governments is therefore to ensure that pensioners' welfare is made number one in whatever they do at all times.
It's another National Executive Council meeting of the union, and leaders across states and the FCT are gathered here to deliberate on the state of the nation as it affects pensioners. The Afolayan-led administration is gradually winding down ahead of a National Delegates Conference in April 2021. The president speaks of the gains so far recorded.
The committee report has been accepted by the Salaries, Income and Wages Commission, and the Commission has already forwarded the report through the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, SGF, to Mr. President.
The Minister of Labour and Employment and the National President of the Nigeria Labour Congress solidarized with the Elders Union through their representatives.
This is supposed to commend the leadership of the union for keeping to the provisions of the constitution by holding this meeting as at 20.
The real pensioner union is here.
Every segment, every fragment, wherever they may be, you must find the large hand to draw them near and bring them into the house that they rightfully belong.
Mararaba is believed to be one of the most densely populated suburbs around the Nigerian capital city, Abuja, and it has a reputation of having one of the busiest roads and bottleneck traffic stretching for kilometers. These protesting residents on Abacha Road within the Mararaba area are all out today to spread and escalate their complaints to an issue they believe has adversely affected them.
Enough of this injustice.
The lack of constant electricity supply to this community has made life unbearable and also hindered economic growth. From exorbitant monthly bills to the erratic nature of power supply are just some of their grievances.
Abacha Road is the most developed area in Karo local government, yet the situation of light here is so pathetic. We don't have light more than 3 hours in a day.
When we started this protest, when we started planning for it, that was when they started giving us like 2 hours. Before they don't give. At times they will even flash it. When they flash it, before it rise up to plug whatever, the light is off.
Most small-scale businesses here suffer due to the lack of adequate power supply, causing most of them to pay a lot more on keeping their businesses afloat.
It has affected the SME, the small, medium businesses. But those big businesses, somehow they have light. I don't know how they have light. But those small businesses, see, funny enough, you know what? I buy fuel of 1,000 naira every day. That means in 30 days, I buy fuel for 30,000 naira.
We want to hear from you.
This protest ends up at the gate of the Mararaba branch of the Abuja Electricity Distribution Company, where they wait armed with placards with various inscriptions and chanting songs.
We don't used to have light. It is possible that we are not getting the light.
Problem we are facing is coming from transmission end, where we have equipment limitation. And that has actually tied our hands. We have resolved that before now, we used to give 6 hours, but we've resolved to up it up to 8 hours of supply.
Maraba is a few minutes from the city center of the nation's capital. Though urban, it still lacks basic amenities such as good drinking water, roads, housing, and of course, electricity supply.
Nigerian actuaries are not getting the best out of the power sector, more especially when it's being privatized, because you all are aware that privatization in Nigeria has failed, and Nigerians are yearning for review. I expected that the government of the day should have turned in line and listened to the Nigerians in the aspect of reviewing what is happening in the private power sector. If actually they did it holistically and believing that the Nigerians will get the best of electricity sector, that sector needs to be reviewed, especially the privatization of that sector. So my take on this is government needs to do a lot in the sector. In fact, they need to declare a state of emergency in the power sector so that Nigerians can feel the impact of this government, because they were not the people that privatized the sector. And I expected that, looking at the situation on ground, they should be able to review it and bring in the stakeholders, those that can be able to manage the industry, so that Nigerians can benefit from it.
It looks like a way of government trying to impoverish its citizens the more. People are suffering. Instead of relieving their suffering, you are trying to increase it and make further reduce the standard of living of the average Nigerian. And to me, it looks like the government is not even interested in regulatory the discourse, because we have a commission, the National Electricity Regulatory Commission, that is supposed to regulate these people and at least make sure that the citizens are not unduly oppressed. But what we find is frustration in the hands of the discos, and nobody is there to save the people from them. I have very close people who are so frustrated concerning this electricity supply. Apart from the tariff, they don't get prepaid meters and they get crazy bills. And when they eventually pay for meters and they get the meters, the discos right now are building outrageous bills into prepaid meters, such that some people pay bills. You pay 10,000 naira for instance, they say they deduct 60% of what you have paid from your meter, so that at the end of the day you only get to use 40% of that 10,000 that you paid for electricity. And you go to them to complain, they say there's nothing they can do, it was an outrageous bill.
The economic power of the generality of the citizens is getting lower and lower, decreasing by the day. And if the citizens or the consumers do not have the power, the financial muscle to pay, they could not be able to consume, and they will not be able to pay. By implication, they will not be able to get electricity, and it has far-reaching effect on their livelihood, even on their well-being. And when you equally look at generally about the situation, you look at the regulatory body not having a firm regulatory administration on the disco themselves. The disco could not be left just at the mere mercy of the citizens, because they need to be guided. They need to be so regulated as the commission ought to do. But we have not been having a good and welcoming gesture from the commission in order to carry out their duty. So by and large, it's not. The timing is quite wrong. And when you consider about the salaries of even within the formal sectors, most of the civil servants are yet to even get the minimum wage, the NIOLA. So when you put all this together, we come to realize, one will come to realize the fact that it is not a good time.
On the profile interview segment this week, I will be speaking with the General Secretary of the Nigerian Union of Electricity Employees, who also doubles up as the Deputy President of the Nigerian Labour Congress. Comrade Ajaero gives us more insight on the matters arising from the increase in electricity tariff. We will be right back. What has been the outcome of the meeting on the electricity tariff increase?
Well, so far the meeting is work in progress, because we had the first 2 weeks as an interim period to look at the tariff, actually. And then when we went into the meetings, we were able to adjust the tariffs, maybe not too much, but we got something down. Those in the high band of A and B, we got about 10% and 10.5% reduction in the tariff. Those on the C band, which seem to be mostly some of the residential and whatever, we got about 31% reduction. And then those in band D and E, those ones no increase at all. But that's not enough considering the level of increase in the tariff. So we're going to tackle those ones in the next phase. That next phase will enable us, look at gas pricing. Because in the course of this job, we were made to realize that gas was being dollarized. We price gas in dollar in Nigeria and then charge tariff. So you can't produce gas in Nigeria. Instead of marking out the one you are going to use for power, you now charge it on dollar and then charge Nigerians. That is unacceptable as far as some of us are concerned. But they say that the issue of gas pricing is a policy issue. So within this period, it's expected that they will have to look at the issue of gas pricing and even the need to get gas for power, as a matter of policy, so that we have the one we are going to use for our power plants before whatever they are going to do. And if you do that, the current tariff can further reduce by 50%. So we are going to tackle that at the next phase of our meeting.
There are reports that Labour has yielded to the increase in tariff for electricity supply in the country, and this has in turn made the discos to increase electricity tariff. What will be your response to this?
I don't think so. I'm the person with one other person representing Labour, or we're about 3 represent Labour in the committee. So, and like I said, we got this, meanwhile, and we're going into the main business. And when we get there, if we fail to get further, you can now talk about what we got being insignificant. But on this tariff issue, and drawing from that meeting they held, and they say you guys should go and work there, we have not abandoned that. And that was why I started by saying that it's work in progress. So it's too early to say it. And if they don't handle such issues that require policy, look at it at government level, look at it from policy level, we can't sit down and now say, okay, the price of gas is 1 naira, is 2 naira. So until we finish this job, I will not take that blackmail that Labour has abandoned it. As far as its tariff, I don't know what happens in other places, but in this committee that I am serving in, it is still work in progress. We enter the next phase. Look at the issue of metering. Look at the metering gap in the country, and then look at the appropriate price in terms of gas, because gas constitutes almost 80% of source of energy. So if we have such amount of money going to gas, or gas being priced in dollar in Nigeria, then if we reduce it, we would have made significant impact. But if we can't, we report back to our principals, the labor centers, and then we can still pick up from there. I'm not sure that it is over. If it is over, there's no need attending these meetings of the committee.
Do you think Nigerians can pay for the increase in electricity tariff despite the high poverty rate that the country is faced with?
I think it was this problem of poverty that led to the discourse, looking at high-brow areas, low-brow areas, as if they wanted to address the problem of inequality or the rich and the poor. It will be difficult to say that Nigerians can pay for the new tariff. Very difficult, because that's not the only thing they have to do. That's not the only need. In a COVID-19 year, where people have not even worked, even in the public service, it is maybe this week that they are calling on people on level 10 down to come to work and all that. Then businesses were not growing. It was wrong in the first instance to have adjusted tariff upwards. So I don't think that, that tariff at that place will not create a lot of problem. It will create problem. So whatever they know they are supposed to do to change it, fine. Nigerians can start paying as they have started paying. But as they face the reality, they will complain. You will still get another outburst. It's not over. The fact that there was no action that day, government should not think that because there was no strike, there was no protest over this, that it is over.
Many are of the opinion that Labour has lost the capacity to fight for the masses, judging from the experience of the suspended action towards the increase in electricity tariff and also fuel pump price. What would be your take on this?
Well, what that means is that we should pack and go, the whole country, because there's no other organization that can fight for the country. And even when people say Labour has lost the power, lost the credibility, there's no alternative body to fight for it. From the days of Ale Must Go episode, days of trying to introduce school fees, reduce bursary, reduce feeding in universities, to the days of anti-SAP, when we gauge Babangida in the streets, up to now, it is Labour that has been fighting for all these issues. So if you say Labour has lost their credibility, if they lie, let them join and discredit Labour. Now, if you feel discrediting Labour, will you rise up to, fight for it? So I think, like I said, these things grow. A problem you don't solve today will come up tomorrow. At that meeting, government made a lot of promises, which Labour believes if those promises are followed, things will get better. They will address some of the social needs of Nigerians. But if those things are not done, we'll come back to where we are. You can't run away from it. It's not a question. Nobody is outsmarting the other. If there are no transport situation, there are no jobs, and then there are no employment here and there, and you say you have outsmarted Labour. 1 year, 2 years, or 6 months, the problems will come up. The pressure will be on the people. They will even not be able to pay tariff, the new tariff, and the problem will continue. So I think government should be conscious of all this, and then we'll address all this problem. It doesn't really matter how the word people use, either Labour sold out or whatever. What matters to some of us is what is in our conscience. If we relate it to even this NSAS situation, did those ones sell out? So why did they shoot them? Why are they prosecuting them? These are the things we pass through on a daily basis. This time around, will anybody be telling you that they have been settled or whatever? That the action stopped. So it goes more than that. We are involved in this, and until we get a better society, that's why we say the struggle continues. We can't stop. We can't end where. Not even blackmail. I don't think that Labour has lost credibility. But you see, we can't win always. But we can't fail to fight. That is something that is significant. At a stage we got to reverse. We got some others to reduce. Let's assume that Nigerians are saying we have lost this one. Does it mean that we can't fight again or we should not fight again? So those are issues. Those are some of the things we experience, year in, year out. I think more importantly, what I discovered was happening from the civil society group, and then some of the labor allies, is that the fact that they felt that we should have taken action. We should have gone on strike, whether we got reduction or not. And that they were ready for action. And now, if you go into action without result, you can equally have a postponed action. If you ask me, this action is postponed, to further notice. Why, if you want to fight, somebody say, no, I will do something, I will do here, I will do here. Why will you still fight? But by the time you check the person and he's not doing it, it's your duty to reinforce and come back. So that's my approach to this.
In all of this, what would you say is the state of the welfare of workers in the power sector?
It has been very shaky. This is not the best of time for a sector that was doing well before privatization. Privatization is like a locust that has come to eat off what was there. Before privatization, we can tell you that we have over 50,000 workers in the sector. And after that, we are talking of about 30-something thousand or thereabout. That is not cheering news. Majority of those people are, roaming the streets. Nothing is happening. Apart from some one or two areas, salary increase has not been regular. It has not been regular. And then the welfare of the workers. It took a fight for us to even get conditions of service. Some others are, like a Igwe power station, are notorious for not allowing conditions of service, and that battle is still on. So for the union and the worker and his union, it has been a very turbulent period. And in the case you keep on having tariff increases, this last one is about a fifth one, and it doesn't go with increase in salaries and wages. And that's part of the battle we are waging at the committee. Of course, they know, that we say that you can't look at cost reflective tariff without factoring the labor cost. As if, you don't spend money on labor or those ones are not working. So part of our first phase of the report is that the labor people in the committee insisted, because the government wants to now have the banks collect the revenue of the discos. Now we now insisted that the worker's salary should be part of the first line charge. When you collect that money, we are talking of money you are going to use to buy gas. The worker's salary must be there. Or else they will tell us that they bought gas, they bought this, they did this, and then there's no money to pay salary. So within the first 2 weeks, we have gotten that workers' salaries must be the first line charge, for whatever it is. And then we are equally going to take up the issue of salary increase. Of course, we have made that case repeatedly. Probably by the time we conclude this report of the committee.
Looking at the way things are, would you say that Nigerians can have a power sector that they can rely on in the nearest future in terms of stable power supply?
What you'll be having until we decide to take decisive action is propaganda. The month they will tell you that they have generated additional 5,000 megawatts is the month you have water supply in your house. And you ask yourself, where is this supply? So and as far as today, they are not building any power station that is coming up tomorrow. It will be mere illusion for any Nigerian or anybody to think that the process of power poverty in Nigeria will reduce, because it's a practical thing. If you are not building new power station, you are not bringing new megawatts into the system, and you see it's going to improve. I'm not aware of any that will come up next year. I'm not aware of any power plant that will even come on stream in the next 2 years. So why will I be hopeful? You can see the controversy around the Mambila power plant, that even there was no monetary backing on it in the 2021 budget. See, if that is the case, that project may take time. That project has been there. Feasibility studies were conducted over 20-something years ago. Nothing has happened. So you will be hearing tariff increase around the same 4,000 megawatts. Tariff will increase quite well. For service delivery, I doubt whether it can.
Thank you very much for your time on the program. It was an interesting conversation I had with you.
Bless.
And that's all we can take on today's edition of the program. Join us next week for a fresh edition of the show. I am Sharon Ijason. Thanks for watching, and remember that labor creates wealth.